Good morning, class. Sorry, in the back. Cooper, I'll wait. As you already know, today we will be playing touch footy. Boys' tries count for 1 point, and as usual, girls' tries count for 2. Did you hear that? Boys' tries count for 1 point, and as usual, girls count for 2. As usual, they move the goalposts, or in this case, the try line, so that the boys include us girls. Why do we believe boys need this kind of encouragement, or let's be real, bribery? Why do some boys not want to pass the ball to us? Why does this rule even exist? This rule kind of accepts inequality in a way, and it almost promotes it. It makes us girls feel incapable. It makes me feel incapable. And frankly, it's embarrassingly patronising. I know this rule does come from a place only with positivity, but why does my male teacher use it and my female teacher not? If he thinks, over a period of time, the rule will disappear and that boys will pass it to everyone of all genders, that's great. But we need change now, or at least in fairer forms. What's the possibility we can create encouragement a different way? Or even, what's the possibility the invisible man can become visible? Hi, I'm Isla Freer and I'm 13 years old. Music is my obsession. I love to play the piano, sing, watch way too many movies, write, eat heaps, and still get called spaghetti on a torso when I'm at soccer. I would describe myself as ambicisive, an official Isla word, for me being both indecisive and decisive. Take this as an example. When I'm faced with the potentially life-changing decision on whether or not I want mint chocolate chip or cheesecake ice cream, it would take me a decent 10 minutes to decide. But when I was invited to do a TED talk, as this is obviously no big deal and an everyday opportunity, it only takes me 2 seconds to say yes. I'm here to talk to you today, not to point out wrongdoings, but to simply start a conversation, and hopefully from that, action. My dream today is to discuss sexism in 2021, to talk to the invisible man, for him to listen, and I hope that one day soon I can see him. The invisible man represents the millions and millions of beautiful men out there who are colossally against gender inequality, but stay invisible by choice, from peer pressure, or because the media hides them. Many have told me that I'm a dreamer for thinking gender inequality could ever be phased out. I hate when people use the word dreamer in a way to dampen aspirations, and I hope someday I will be able to prove them wrong. One of the best teachers I've ever had said to me, set yourself a goal so big you have to grow into another person to achieve it. This talk is just that little part of growth for me. Now, I'm going to discuss the invisible man, explicit material, and the actual science behind sexism. Yes, sexism is actually a thing that happens in the brain. But mainly, I aim to encourage the invisible man to show himself and talk about how we need to improve and expand our education to create an actually progressive society for now and in the future. So, sexist behaviours around explicit material are potentially uncomfortable, especially at my age, but increasingly necessary conversation. I know this seems like a long time ago, you oldies, if you're an adult, but genuinely, take a moment to reflect on what you were doing when you were just 8 years old. I was in grade 3, running around in my little school uniform with my stunning Velcro trainers, whilst refusing to have a bath, and going again and again to that tree in my backyard to see if I'd grown tall enough overnight to get to that next branch. I hope your 8-year-old self was somewhat similar to mine. But get this. Today in Australia, the average age for first exposure to explicit material is 8 to 10 years old, and the average age for pornography is 11. This isn't just Australia. For the pornography element, I'm not talking about an Insta post or cover of Playboy magazine. I'm discussing hardcore and potentially violent videos. Age 11 is grade 5, 6, and maybe 7. When puberty may just be starting, kids are still pretty much in primary school, and are just becoming aware to the fact that sex isn't just reproduction. Scarily, when I tried to research pornography and the effects on underage people, barely any statistics were recent and barely any were Australian. Does this suggest we're turning a blind eye to the severity of the situation? I did, however, find something truly harrowing. A 2013 UK study cited that 80% of girls and 100% of boys had been exposed to violent pornography by the age of 15. This includes child sex abuse and rape. Let that soak in. This scares me beyond explanation. And when I tried to find out how many kids think this behaviour is okay, or how many are uneducated about unhealthy practices, there were no clear facts. Some parents may shy away from this and say, "Oh, that's not my boy or girl." But these results are the facts, and kids may have not seen it on purpose. The main inequality issue with this kind of content is the portrayal and degradation of females, as it illustrates a misogynistic, unrealistic, and downright disturbing relationship between men and women. I'm gratefully far more innocent than some, so I'm luckily not an expert on this. But I want you to understand, until harsher laws on accessibility of pornography are created, it is the job of all of us, our parents, supported by our education systems, to encourage the visibility of the now invisible men. Educating boys and girls who can then educate their friends and their future kids that these videos are not real life and they must stand up for women and themselves is the best way to ensure that sexism stops early. Now that the gross part's over, I can hear a sigh of relief from me too. Followed by some eye rolls because I'm about to go all sciencey on you. But don't worry, it's interesting. Like I said earlier, the brain interests me a lot. It's this pink squishy thing that looks like a squashed intestine, and it has instincts, knowledge, memories, and communicates silently with our whole body. On my research journey, I found that sexism is actually instinctive in nature. When I say instinctive sexism in nature, I'm not talking about inappropriate comments or unequal pay. I'm talking about the female praying mantis making a 3-course meal of the male after mating, or some male animals leaving to hunt while the females have to stay home and look after the young. Instincts are actions performed based on inborn and learned elements. Any behaviour is instinctive if it is based upon no prior experience. But in time, any behaviour can become instinctive after education and experience. My dad will be over the moon when it becomes instinctive for me to turn the lights off. Now, you may or may not have heard of neuroplasticity, aka brain plasticity. This is the brain's ability to rewire itself and make new connections. Without this ability, any brain would be unable to develop from infancy through to adulthood, or recover from any brain injury. As brains develop through experience and growth, the tubes may grow and multiply. So one open end becomes 5 open ends, ready to keep changing. When the human brain is young, it's not yet formed all its main connections. Think about when a baby learns a language, for example. Brains have none of these new connections when they're simply an egg and a sperm. Ugh. Which means if we begin to teach respect over sexism when kids are young, their brain's high levels of neuroplasticity will solidify respectful connections. And over a few generations, in theory, the human baby could be born with foundations for respectful connections rather than sexist ones. Like I said, there is both male and female dominance in nature. But since us humans have changed so many other instinctive behaviours, like staying awake long after darkness falls, we can definitely switch instinctual sexism to instinctual respect, right? Okay, the invisible man. Like I said, boys may be looking up to the behaviour of men in explicit material and may act on it. At school, I've not only been catcalled, but had random boys, some even in the grade below me and this tall, come up to my friends and I and verbalise exactly what they want to do to us. We shouldn't have to go all Aretha on them like, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, you know what it means to me, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, just give it to me now. We deserve it now. I cannot use examples as some of the things that have been said to us are so obscene. But anyways, often the boy repeats it and the others all laugh at how embarrassed they've made my friends and I feel. I can tell you, over my past 2 years of high school, I felt disgusted, self-conscious, embarrassed and intimidated by these comments tens of times. And so have way too many girls I know. I'm sick and tired of being told that, oh, boys will be boys. Yes, they have increased testosterone when they reach puberty. But I ask you, does this really make it okay to humiliate and disgust a girl? I know we have to learn to stand up for ourselves, but surely you can agree this can be difficult. However, on the brighter side, almost always there are 1 or 2 boys who stand behind and look a little embarrassed, distressed. Maybe they do disagree with the behaviour. We must make sure these invisible boys do not grow into invisible men. Now, I understand completely that calling someone out is confrontational, and this is where the incredible, incredible TED Talk by Loretta J. Ross comes in. Don't call people out, call them in. Without spoiling her whole talk, which I recommend 100%, calling out makes the person doing the wrong thing defensive and doesn't allow them to grow. Calling in is when you look someone right in the eyes and say incredibly calmly and genuinely, "That's an interesting viewpoint." In this case, then the disagreeing boy, or even the girl, could say, "That you think girls can be treated like that? Tell me more." Although challenging, this is far more effective, as it allows the person to reflect on their actions and maybe even apologise. I think it's really world-changing stuff. And I truly ask the invisible man, for the safety of the next generation, please learn to have the courage to stand up to someone when a derogatory or sexualised comment is made. If you do this, younger boys will follow, and their friends will follow. So, what do you think? What's the possibility the invisible man can truly become visible? Can we see more of him, meet him? Can we teach the next generation that A, pornography is 18 plus for a reason, and B, at the inevitability that they are exposed to it, can we teach them that a lot of the practices are sexist, abnormal, and degrading? Can education on respect be made for everyone, from songs and cartoons for toddlers right up to social media pages for teens and every age in between? Is it possible that the media can shed more light on men who really want gender equality? Can we rewire our brains to be respectful rather than sexist? We know our English teachers always said, "Show not tell," when writing stories, but why can't we show and tell? We need our grandpas, dads, uncles, brothers, friends and teachers to be vocal and call in, so we can all rewrite our stories. I live by my own principle. Your dreams are as realistic as you make them. And if people don't think something is possible, then just prove them wrong. What's the possibility I've made a difference today through sharing a fresh insight and the truth behind what it's like for some girls my age? I hope I have. Thank you.